I received a promotion and salary increase, my mother prepared gourmet dishes all afternoon, and my father opened his treasured fine wine. This family banquet intended to celebrate my achievement should have been warm and harmonious. Unexpectedly, my boyfriend Eric brought his ex-girlfriend along as well. My parents meticulously prepared a table full of my favorite dishes. However, she unreservedly sat next to Eric, nitpicking and complaining that the dishes my parents made did not suit her taste, behaving more like the hostess of this home than I did. I was exhausted. Calmly, I proposed breaking up. Eric sneered, "Claire, you've got guts, remember not to let this tantrum last more than 24 hours. His ex-girlfriend explained aggrievedly, "Claire, don't misunderstand, if there was anything between Eric and me, we wouldn't have broken up in the first place." Just as I was about to present the facts, Eric interrupted me, "You're always harping on Ivy, Claire, I think you're just spoiled as a native New York only child. If you marry into our ordinary out-of-town family, no one will indulge your princess-like bad habits." I suddenly awoke as if from a dream. "Eric, you are wrong. I am not merely a princess, I am an empress." The project bonus arrived, and my position was promoted by 2 levels. I called my mother, my tone involuntarily rising with uncontainable joy. "Mom, I'll come home for dinner tonight. I'll buy a large lobster to take back." On the other end of the line, my mother's laughter was even brighter than mine. "No need for you to buy anything, we have everything at home. I've sent your dad to the supermarket, all your favorites are prepared. I'll also stew the Buddha jumps over the wall that you mentioned the day before yesterday, come home early after work." After hanging up, my heart felt warmly comforted. This is what home is. My name is Claire, a genuine New York girl through and through. From birth, I have been immersed in my parents' love. They provided me with the best education, the most affluent environment, and most importantly, unconditional love and respect. This gave me sufficient confidence to face all challenges in my work. My boyfriend Eric was my university classmate. He came to New York from a small town out of state, ambitious and hardworking. We had been together for 3 years, with a stable relationship, reaching the stage of discussing marriage. When I got promoted, he was even happier than I was. On the phone, he kept praising how capable I was, saying he would leave work early to accompany me home for the celebration. I smiled and agreed. At 6 in the evening, I carried the massager I bought for my parents and stepped into the home on time. The familiar aroma of food wafted over. My mother, wearing an apron, poked her head out from the kitchen, her face full of smiles. "Claire is back? Go wash your hands quickly, dinner will start soon." My father was sitting on the sofa watching financial news. Upon seeing me return, he immediately put down the remote. "Our family's great contributor is back." He pointed to the decanted red wine on the coffee table. "Dad's treasured fine wine, opened for you today." My heart warmed, and I walked over to hug him. "Thank you, Dad." The family was harmonious and joyful, as if the living room lights were coated with a layer of gentle gold. Everything was as beautiful as a painting. When the doorbell rang, I was rolling up my sleeves to help my mother serve the dishes in the kitchen. It must be Eric. I smiled as I went to open the door, my heart full of anticipation. I wanted to share this joy with him. I wanted to tell him, under my parents' witness, that our future would get better and better. The door opened. Eric's handsome face bore a smile. Behind him stood another woman. A woman I would recognize even if turned to ashes. His ex-girlfriend, Ivy. The smile on my face instantly froze. Ivy was wearing a white dress, with long hair cascading over her shoulders, her face displaying just the right amount of fragility and innocence. Upon seeing me, her gaze dodged slightly, then she timidly smiled. "Claire, won't you invite us in?" Eric put his arm around my shoulders, his tone intimate and matter-of-fact. "Ivy just went through a breakup recently and is in a bad mood. I thought of bringing her out to relax and share in your good fortune. Our home is lively today, isn't it?" The way he said our home was exceedingly natural. My heart felt as if pricked by a fine needle, causing dense pain. My mother heard the commotion and came out from the kitchen. Upon seeing Ivy at the door, her smile faded by a third. "Who is this?" Eric immediately introduced enthusiastically, "Auntie, this is my friend Ivy." "Friend?" He casually erased their once deeply engraved romance. My father also came over, his eyes behind the glasses carrying scrutiny. The atmosphere instantly became subtly awkward. I took a deep breath, suppressing the discomfort in my heart. Today was my promotion celebration banquet. I did not want to make my parents unhappy. I stepped aside, forcing a stiff smile. "Come in first." My mother, having seen the world, quickly regained her politeness. "Please come in quickly, the slippers are in the shoe cabinet." Ivy sweetly responded, "Thank you, Auntie," and then walked straight to the shoe cabinet. She immediately spotted the pair of pink bunny slippers I had just taken off, next to which were the guest slippers my mother prepared for her. Yet, she picked up a pair identical to the ones on my feet, the spare pink bunny slippers, and naturally put them on. As if she were the regular guest in this home. My mother's expression changed slightly. I clenched my fists. An inner voice was roaring. But reason told me, endure. For my mother's happiness today, endure. Eric acted as if he saw none of this, pulling Ivy toward the living room. "Uncle, Auntie, don't busy yourselves, sit down quickly. Today, we are all here to celebrate for Claire." He behaved like the male host. A considerate, enthusiastic, and hospitable male host. Ridiculous. The family, plus 2 guests, finally sat down at the dinner table. The originally spacious 4-person table seemed somewhat crowded. My mother deliberately arranged me in the main seat, Eric sat to my left, and Ivy sat right next to Eric. My father sat opposite me, my mother to my right. A peculiar quadrangular relationship. My mother enthusiastically urged, "Quickly taste the dishes Auntie made, I don't know if they suit your tastes." Eric immediately picked up a serving of braised pork, praising it effusively. Auntie's cooking skills need no mention, better than those in 5-star hotels. Ivy also smiled reservedly, her gaze sweeping over the full table of dishes. That look was not like a guest's, but rather like inspecting her own territory. The table was full of dishes I loved, steamed grouper, spicy diced chicken, braised prawns in oil, and that pot of slow-stewed Buddha jumps over the wall. Ivy's utensils, however, specifically stopped at the plate of steamed grouper. The fish was garnished with emerald green cilantro. She furrowed her brows, her voice neither loud nor soft, just enough for everyone to hear. "Auntie, Eric doesn't eat cilantro, don't add it next time." The air froze again. My mother's hand holding the soup bowl stiffened in midair, her face full of embarrassment. "Ah, is that so? I didn't know." I sneered inwardly. "Eric doesn't eat cilantro?" "The cilantro beef I made for him, he always ate it clean every time." "Does he not eat it, or only not in front of you, Ivy?" Eric immediately smoothed things over, picking up a serving of fish meat into Ivy's bowl, pushing the cilantro aside. It's fine," Ivy remembered wrong. "I eat it now." He turned to my mother, smiling, "Auntie, don't mind, Ivy has no ill intentions, she's just straightforward." With the phrase straightforward, he lightly brushed off this boundary-crossing offense. My mother tugged at the corners of her mouth, saying nothing. The atmosphere at the table had shifted from subtle to suffocating. I lowered my head, silently sipping the soup in my bowl. Endure. Just treat it as watching a clumsy stage play. My mother, feeling sorry for me, peeled a large braised prawn and placed it on my plate. "Claire, eat more, you look like you've lost weight from exhaustion recently." I was just about to say thank you, Mom. Beside me, Ivy had already put on the disposable gloves from the table and started peeling shrimp for Eric. Her movements were skilled and natural. One plump shrimp after another piled up in Eric's bowl. She softly said, "Eat quickly, they'll taste fishy when cold." Eric enjoyed it with peace of mind, even smiling at her. "Yours are still the best peeled." That moment of intimacy was like a poisonous thorn, piercing everyone's eyes present. My father's face had completely darkened. I saw his hand holding the wine glass, knuckles turning white. I picked up the shrimp my mother peeled for me and put it in my mouth. It was tasteless. Inner monologue, are these two addicted to acting? The meal was eaten as if on pins and needles. My father is a talkative person, usually fond of discussing current affairs and economics at the dinner table. Today, to ease the atmosphere, he initiated a topic. Recently, this policy support for the new energy industry, I see it as a major trend for the future. He had just begun. Ivy put down her utensils, ostentatiously wiping her mouth. Uncle, your view might be a bit outdated. My father was stunned. Ivy spoke eloquently, spouting several internet buzzwords from who knows where. Nowadays, it's about closed-loop ecosystems and underlying logic. Policy support is just the surface. The key is the resilience of the supply chain. You only look at the macro, ignoring the complexity of micro-level execution. These words left my father, a professor who had studied economics his entire life, speechless. Not because she made much sense, but because her ignorance and rudeness made my father lose even the interest in rebutting. My father fell silent. He merely quietly raised his wine glass and took a sip of the treasured red wine. That wine, at this moment, probably tasted bitter. I finally could not hold back. I put down my utensils, looking at Eric with cold eyes. He received my signal but only shook his head at me, mouthing, "Don't fuss." Then, he once again acted as the peacemaker. Ivy just returned from abroad, exposed to newer things, speaks directly, "Uncle, don't take it to heart. She just went through a breakup, let's take more care of her. We're all family, don't be so calculative." The 5 words, "we're all family," were like a resounding slap, fiercely striking my face. Who is family with her? I looked at my father's cooling gaze, at my mother's forced smile. The string in my heart tightened inch by inch. After dinner, my mother silently cleared the dishes, my father excused himself to the balcony for fresh air. In the living room, only the 3 of us remained. Ivy acted as if nothing happened, picking up the remote on her own and switching to her favorite idol drama. Eric sat next to me, trying to hold my hand. I dodged. He sighed, lowering his voice. "Claire, what's wrong with you? Today is your happy day, don't throw a tantrum." I looked at him, feeling utterly unfamiliar. "Eric, don't you think she's superfluous? Don't you think bringing her to my home is superfluous?" Eric's brows furrowed, his tone carrying a hint of impatience. "Here we go again? I've said, she had a breakup, I'm just bringing her to relax. Can't you be a bit more magnanimous?" I laughed in anger. Magnanimous? My celebration banquet, my home, why should I be magnanimous to someone usurping my place? I stood up, wanting to go to the kitchen to talk to him properly. Take him to a place without my parents and make things clear. He followed me into the kitchen. I closed the door, isolating the living room's noise. "Eric, today is my promotion family banquet, I'm the protagonist. What do you mean by bringing her? Is it to declare sovereignty or to disgust my parents?" Eric leaned against the door, arms crossed, his face full of fatigue and disdain. "Claire, are you done? It's just an ex-girlfriend, we're innocent now, do you have to hold on so tightly?" He looked at me, his eyes showing contempt I had never seen before. Then, he uttered the words suppressed in his heart for who knows how long. "Always harping on Ivy, Claire, I think you're just spoiled as a native New York only child. When you marry into our family, no one will indulge your princess bad habits." In that instant, the world seemed to stand still. In the kitchen, the sink faucet was still dripping water. Drip, drip. As if counting down for this ridiculous relationship of mine. Native New York only child. Princess bad habits. It turned out that in his heart, all my goodness, my family, my background, had become original sins he could trample upon at will. My 3 years of effort, 3 years of emotions, in his eyes, were nothing but a farce during a princess syndrome flare-up. Suddenly, I was no longer angry. The taut string in my heart snapped with a pop. What followed was an unprecedented, icy clarity. I looked at him carefully, as if recognizing him for the first time. Looking at his face twisted with impatience. Looking at the undisguised sense of superiority and manipulation in his eyes. I smiled. Very lightly, very faintly. Eric. I spoke calmly. You're right. He was stunned, probably not expecting this reaction from me. I walked up to him, staring directly into his eyes, word by word, crystal clear. I am indeed spoiled. My parents raised me like a princess, not to let me go to someone like your family's home and suffer from someone like you. So, let's break up. These 3 words, I said lightly as a cloud. Yet they exploded like a thunderbolt in the small kitchen. Eric's expression went from astonishment to disbelief, finally turning into a sneer. Claire, you're at it again? Saying break up every time we argue, is it fun? He stepped forward, trying to pull me, but I sidestepped. I tell you, you've got guts. Remember not to let this tantrum exceed 24 hours, or I won't coax you. His tone was full of confident control. He was certain I could not leave him. Certain I was just being petulant. I could not be bothered to waste words with him. I opened the kitchen door and walked out. In the living room, Ivy was watching with relish. My parents came out from the room, looking at us with concern. I walked to the center of the living room, picked up my bag. Then, I pointed to the door, looking at Eric and Ivy. My voice was not loud, but sufficient for everyone to hear clearly. Eric, take your friend, now, immediately, get out of my home. Ivy's face instantly turned pale. She stood up aggrievedly, her eyes red. Claire, don't misunderstand, if there was anything between Eric and me, we wouldn't have broken up back then. We're really just friends. I was just about to present facts and reason. But looking at her pitiful White Lotus appearance, I suddenly felt it was unnecessary. Preaching to the deaf, wasting breath. I directly interrupted her. Shut up. I don't want to hear you speak. Eric, I give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. I began counting down. Eric's face alternated between green and white. He probably had never been so humiliated in front of me. Claire. Don't go too far. 3, 2, 1. I gave him no more chances. I walked to the entrance and opened the door. Then I walked back, picked up Eric's coat from the sofa and Ivy's delicate handbag. Without hesitation, I threw them out the door. Scram. One word, crisp and decisive. Eric and Ivy's faces were like a palette, displaying shock, anger, humiliation, disbelief. Finally, Eric gnashed his teeth and threw down, Claire, you wait for me, pulling the nearly crying Ivy. They rushed out the door in disarray. Bang! I forcefully slammed the door shut, and the world finally became quiet. I leaned against the door panel, letting out a long sigh of relief. As if shedding a 1,000-pound shackle. My parents quickly walked over, their faces full of concern. Claire, you. My mother hesitated. I turned around, facing them, revealing a heartfelt smile. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I ruined the celebration banquet you prepared for me. But from today, my new life has also begun. My father patted my shoulder, his eyes full of complete support. Good breakup. Our Sioux family's daughter cannot suffer such grievances. My mother also had red eyes, holding my hand. Child, you did right. Mom supports you. My family's understanding and support are my strongest backing. I nodded, took out my phone. In front of my parents, I began a swift and decisive cleanup. Found Eric's Facebook, blocked. Found his phone number, blocked. Found his QQ, blocked. His family's contacts, blocked altogether. For the groups with mutual friends, I didn't leave. I directly sent a message in the group. Announcement to all, I, Claire, have officially broken up with Eric today. From now on, he marries his, I marry mine, no further involvement. For any money borrowed or matters handled in my boyfriend's name before, please settle with him directly as soon as possible. Any future disputes have nothing to do with me. After sending, I found Ivy's Facebook. Without hesitation, blocked and deleted. I looked at our past photos in the phone, one by one, all deleted. All dynamics related to him in social accounts, cleared with one click. The entire process took no more than 5 minutes. I had not the slightest lingering attachment. Those once sweet memories, after tonight's absurd family banquet, had all turned into disgusting irony. After cleaning the phone, I began cleaning the house. I walked into my room, took out a large garbage bag. His toothbrush left here, towel, several changes of clothes. The dolls he gave me, ornaments, all things bearing his mark. I swept them all into the garbage bag. Without mercy. Finally, I saw a velvet box on the bedside table. Inside was the necklace he gave me last month, saying it was our 3-year anniversary gift. I opened the box, picked up the necklace, walked to the living room. Opened the window, aiming at the garbage bin downstairs. With a fling of my hand. That thing shining under the lights drew a parabola, precisely falling into the darkness. I clapped my hands. A cliff-like breakup should have a cliff-like attitude. No explanations, no entanglements, leaving no room. The day after the breakup was a clear Monday. I got up at 7 as usual, applied delicate makeup, selected a sharp professional suit. In the mirror, my eyes were clear and bright, radiant. No haggardness from heartbreak, only the refreshment of rebirth. At the company, colleagues congratulated me one after another. Congratulations, Director Claire. Director Claire looks great today. Indeed, good events refresh the spirit. I smiled and responded one by one, immersing myself in the intense and busy work. The new project had countless threads. As the overall responsible person, I had to muster 120% energy. Meetings, reviewing plans, interfacing with clients. I was so busy my feet didn't touch the ground, with no time to think about Eric's mess. In the afternoon, a partners team came for a docking meeting. The leading man wore a well-tailored dark gray suit, with an upright posture and steady temperament. Our project's responsible person introduced, Director Claire. This is the client's project general manager, Ethan, Mr. Ethan. I extended my hand, smiling formally. Mr. Ethan, hello, I'm Claire. Ethan shook my hand, with appropriate force, releasing immediately. His hand was warm, with a thin callus on the palm. Director Claire, I've long admired you. I've read your proposal, it's outstanding. His voice was deep and pleasant, like the overtones of a cello. I raised my eyes, only then seriously appraising him. He was very handsome, with angular heroism. Deep brows and eyes, high nose bridge, gaze calm yet sharp, as if able to see through everything. Throughout the meeting, he performed professionally and efficiently. The questions he raised were incisive, hitting the key points. But his attitude was not aggressive, but carried a sincere respect and discussion. Completely different from Eric's half-baked arrogance. The meeting ended, already past quitting time. Ethan offered, Director Claire and the team have all worked so hard. Let's have a casual dinner tonight. Our team cheered. As the person in charge, I naturally couldn't refuse. Then I'll have to trouble you, Mr. Ethan. This was my first social engagement since our breakup. It was good, using work to numb myself was the best way to heal. Although, I seemed not to need healing. The restaurant was chosen by Ethan, an elegant private kitchen. After seating, Ethan naturally handed the menu to me first. Director Claire is a New Yorker, most familiar with local tastes, you order. A simple action, yet it slightly moved my heart. Eric was with me for 3 years, every time we ate out, he always ordered dishes he loved. He always said, my taste is heavier, accommodate me. I had grown accustomed to accommodating. So much so that when someone gave me the choice, I was somewhat unaccustomed. I ordered a few signature dishes, also considering other team members' tastes. Ethan looked at me, his eyes carrying a hint of appreciation. Director Claire is very attentive. During the meal, the atmosphere was good. Everyone chatted about work and life. Ethan was not talkative, but always chimed in at the right time, livening up the scene. He would seriously listen to everyone speaking, whether executives or ordinary staff. Unlike Eric, who at dinners always only interacted with those he deemed useful. A dish of squirrel mandarin fish was served. Exquisitely shaped, sweet and sour delicious. One of my subordinate girls took a bite and couldn't help praising, "Wow, this fish is so delicious, just a bit too many bones." Ethan heard, smiled. The next second, he picked up the public utensils, naturally clipped a piece of boneless belly meat, placed it in the girl's bowl. "Eat this piece." The girl was flattered, her face red. Others in the team teased, Ethan just smiled mildly. Watching this scene, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. I recalled that family banquet. Ivy peeling shrimp for Eric as if no one else was there. Eric enjoying it calmly. The two of them treated everyone as background. Whereas Ethan, his thoughtfulness and gentlemanliness, were directed toward everyone. It was an upbringing and respect ingrained in his bones. Without comparison, there is no harm. This was simply a dimensional reduction strike. After dinner, Ethan arranged cars to send our team's female colleagues home. Finally, only he and I remained. "Where do you live, Director Claire?" "I'll send you." "No need, Mr. Ethan, I'll take a taxi myself." I politely refused. He didn't insist, just stood by the roadside, waiting with me for the car. The evening breeze was slightly cool. He suddenly spoke, "Director Claire, today in the meeting, I noticed your state seemed not quite good. Although you hit it well, you occasionally zoned out." My heart startled. He actually noticed. "Nothing, just some personal matters." I didn't want to say more. He nodded, not pursuing further. "If there's anything in the project needing my cooperation, contact me anytime." Same for personal matters. Although we've just met, having one more friend is never a bad thing. The taxi arrived. I thanked him, opened the car door. He held the car roof for me, instructing, "Be careful on the road." The car drove far. From the rearview mirror, I could still see his upright figure standing there. At that moment, I had to admit. Some people, just standing there, are enough to evoke fondness. I thought blocking and deleting would completely sever ties with Eric. I still underestimated the thickness of his skin. Wednesday afternoon, I was in a meeting, my phone vibrating nonstop. It was an unknown number. I hung up, the other party called again. 3 times in a row. Fearing it was a client with urgency, I had to apologize to colleagues and go outside to answer. "Hello. Claire. You finally answered my call." It was Eric. His voice carried suppressed anger. I wanted to hang up directly. "Dare you hang up?" He roared, "Did you say in the group that I borrowed money in your name? Now everyone is asking me. What exactly do you want?" I sneered. I was just stating facts, reminding everyone. "Eric, I have no time to waste words with you, don't harass me with unknown numbers anymore." "Harass?" He seemed to hear the biggest joke. "Claire, our 3 years of relationship, in your eyes is harassment? Don't forget, before you blocked me, I hadn't agreed to the breakup." I was almost laughed angry by his logic. "In my home, in front of my parents, I told you to get out. Isn't this breakup ceremony formal enough?" The other end was silent. A few seconds later, his tone softened, carrying a plea. "Claire, I was wrong, that day I was a bastard, drank some wine, talked nonsense. Can you add back my contacts? Let's talk properly." Ivy also knows she was wrong, she wants to apologize in person. Ivy again. This name now only made me feel nauseous. No need. "Eric, we're over. Please don't appear in my life anymore." After saying that, I hung up directly and blocked this number as well. Not long after, my Facebook started receiving friend requests. It was Ivy. The verification message, Claire, sorry, can we chat? I clicked reject. She sent another. It's my fault, I shouldn't have gone to your home, making you angry. But Eric and I really have nothing, don't break up with him because of me, okay? He loves you very much. Looking at that text full of green tea flavor, I felt a wave of nausea. Directly screenshot. Then sent to a mutual friend, also my university roommate. Help me tell Eric to manage his ex-girlfriend, if she bothers me again, I'll call the police. Roommate replied instantly, holy crap. You two really broke up? Good breakup. I've long disliked him. Screenshot forwarded, waiting for the show. The world finally quiet again. I blocked all who might contact me. They were like clowns, performing solo on my already curtained stage. And I had no interest even in being the audience. The project progressed smoothly, and my contact with Ethan increased. We almost daily called, held video meetings. He was professional, rigorous, occasionally making harmless jokes. Working with him was enjoyable. That day, due to a data issue, I worked overtime at the company. When finished, it was almost 9 in the evening. I tiredly rubbed my temples, preparing to pack and go home. The phone rang, it was Ethan. Still at the company? He asked. Just finished. Come downstairs, I'm at your company entrance. I was stunned. Mr. Ethan? You. I happened to pass by, saw your company lights still on. Thinking you might not have eaten, I brought some supper. My heart warmed, but I still felt embarrassed. How can I? Come down, don't be polite. His tone brooked no refusal. I had to go downstairs. His car was parked by the roadside, a black Phaeton, low-key and steady, like him. He got out of the car, handed me an insulated container. Seafood porridge, still hot. I took it, feeling the warmth. Thank you, Mr. Ethan. Call me Ethan. He looked at me, gaze gentle, always calling Mr. Ethan is too distant. Under the night, his eyes were strikingly bright. I nodded, okay. Ethan. We stood by the roadside, momentarily silent. He suddenly said, a few days ago, I saw your Instagram. I was stunned. What did I post on Instagram? Oh, I remembered. It was that breakup declaration. I was somewhat embarrassed. Made you laugh? No. He shook his head, I think you're cool. He looked at me, eyes very serious. Knowing to cut losses timely is the most valuable quality of adults. You deserve better. At that moment, the evening breeze brushed my cheek. I suddenly felt that the grievances and endurance of the past 3 years were like from a previous life. The man before me, we had known each other for only a few short weeks. Yet he understood me more than Eric. He understood respect, appreciation, the persistence and pride under my calm exterior. This was a gentle like spring wind turning rain. Silent, yet sufficient to melt solid ice. My relationship with Ethan gradually warmed in an unspoken understanding. He would invite me to dinner under the guise of work. Also send warm supper when I worked overtime. We chatted about work, life, ideals. I discovered we had many common interests. Both liked watching suspense movies, listening to classical music, even the same niche band. Being with excellent people makes oneself better. That weekend, Ethan and I agreed to see an art exhibition together. I wore a newly bought dress, in a good mood. Unexpectedly, enemies meet on a narrow road. At the exhibition hall entrance, I saw the 2 people I least wanted to see. Eric and Ivy. They also saw me, and Ethan beside me. Eric's face instantly turned ashen. Ivy looked as if suffering great injustice, her eyes immediately red. They walked straight toward us. Eric's gaze like knives, scraping back and forth on Ethan beside me. Claire, you're something. Just a few days, and you found the next one? His tone was sour enough to choke. Before I spoke, Ethan stepped forward, unobtrusively shielding me behind. He looked at Eric, gaze calm, aura powerful enough to be unignorable. "This gentleman, please mind your words." Eric was intimidated by his presence, but soon became furious from shame. "I'm talking to my girlfriend, none of your damn business." "Claire, come here." "Who is he? Do you know his background?" "Don't be deceived." He tried to pull me. Ethan's arm steadily barred in front. "She is my friend. I won't allow you to harass her." At this time Ivy weakly spoke. "Claire, we know you're still angry at us. But you can't retaliate this way. This gentleman." She looked at Ethan, eyes full of pity and implication. "Claire is just spoiled by her family, a bit temperamental, don't be deceived by her. Her 3-year relationship with Eric isn't something that can be severed just like that. What a flourishing white lotus. Inverting black and white, sowing discord. Turning my decisive breakup into spiteful revenge. Turning Ethan's appearance into a casual next home I found." I trembled with anger, about to refute. Ethan gently pressed my shoulder. He smiled. That smile, very faint, yet carrying a hint of sarcasm and contempt. He looked at Ivy, slowly speaking. "This miss, you may have misunderstood. First, Claire isn't being spiteful, she's just clearing garbage. Second, I'm not a casual next home she found, I'm seriously pursuing her. Third." He paused, gaze turning to Eric, eyes instantly sharp. "A man like you doesn't deserve her. So, put away your pitiful self-esteem and control desire, stay away from her. Otherwise, I don't mind letting you know what true out of your league means." Ethan's words were like a resounding slap, fiercely on Eric and Ivy's faces. Eric's face swelled to liver color. He pointed at Ethan, lips trembling, unable to say a word for a long time. You. Bystanders around began watching, pointing at them. Ivy's skin was ultimately not thick enough, tugging Eric's sleeve. "Eric, let's go." Eric, like a cat with tail stepped on, exploded completely. "Go? Why?" He flung off Ivy, roaring at me. "Claire. You broke up with me for this pretty boy, right? You've been hooking up with him long ago." This bucket of dirty water, splashed fast and ruthless. I was so angry my vision blackened. Ethan's face also completely cooled. He took out his phone, dialed a number. "Hello, security? At a exhibition hall in Trance, someone is provoking trouble, affecting the exhibition order, please come handle it." His handling was calm and efficient. No arguing, no fuss, directly using the most effective way to solve. Soon, 2 uniformed security guards ran over. "Sir, madam, please don't argue here, if you have words, please say outside." Eric was still unrelenting, clamoring. "It's them. They started." Security didn't care, one left one right, directly escorting him and Ivy out. A farce finally ended. I looked at their disheveled backs, yet my heart had no pleasure, only waves of disgust. Ethan turned, looking at me worriedly. "Are you okay?" I shook my head, forced a smile. "Sorry, made you see a joke. The one who should apologize is me." He frowned tightly. "If not for me inviting you out, you wouldn't have encountered them." He looked at me, eyes full of apology and distress. "We won't see the exhibition, I'll send you home." On the way back, the car was very quiet. My mood also sank to the lowest. After a long time, Ethan spoke. "Claire, there's something, I don't know if I should tell you." I looked at him. "Actually, about your ex-boyfriend, I've heard some things. Our company had project cooperation with his previous company. His reputation in the industry isn't good." Ethan's tone was calm, like stating an objective fact. "His business ability is average, but he's good at scheming. Especially likes using female relationships to pave his way. I heard, while with you, he was also entangled with his ex-girlfriend. His job hop to the new company was reportedly helped by Ivy's father." "So?" Ethan didn't continue. But I understood completely. That day's family banquet was not at all bringing a friend to relax. It was a carefully planned palace forcing. Eric wanted to have both sides. Enjoying my family's resources and my efforts on one side. Relying on Ivy's family connections for his career on the other. Bringing Ivy to my home was a test. Testing my bottom line, testing my parents' tolerance. If I endured, then Ivy would become an indelible shadow in our lives. He could legitimately enjoy the blessing of one emperor, two empresses. I was truly a fool. I actually wasted 3 years of youth on such a person. Tears finally fell uncontrollably. This wasn't sadness, it was disgust. It was not worth it for myself. A warm large hand covered the back of my hand. It was Ethan. He said nothing, just quietly accompanying me, using his body warmth to convey silent comfort. After that, my relationship with Ethan grew closer. He didn't rush to confess, but with actions, bit by bit, healed the wound in my heart. He would, when I was overwhelmed, clearly help analyze problems. When I was down, take me to eat my favorite desserts. He remembered every word I casually said. I casually mentioned wanting to see a certain band's concert, he would silently buy tickets. My mother noticed my change. "Claire, are you in love recently? Your whole person is glowing." I was somewhat shy, told her about Ethan. My mother listened, silent for a moment. "This child sounds good. When, bring him home for parents to see?" I didn't expect my mother to be so open-minded. I told Ethan about this. He seemed more nervous than me. "What do uncle and auntie like? First time visiting, what gifts should I prepare?" Looking at his serious appearance, I couldn't help laughing. Weekend, Ethan carried bags big and small to my home. Premium tea for my dad, top-grade bird's nest for my mom, and some seasonal fruits. Valuable but not vulgar, clearly thoughtful. My parents' first glance at Ethan showed satisfaction in their eyes. This meal was eaten harmoniously, forming a world of difference from that nightmare-like family banquet in my memory. Ethan didn't deliberately flatter, but his every move exuded sincerity and upbringing. My mother's dishes, he tasted each seriously, then sincerely praised. "Auntie, your skills are too good, more authentic than outside restaurants." My father chatted about his favorite current affairs and economics again. Ethan didn't like Ivy, pretending to know and pointing rivers and mountains. He listened seriously, on my father's views, proposed his insights, reasoned, humble yet profound. The two chatted more congenially, my father even took out his treasured fine wine. The one disrupted by Eric and Ivy last time, not drunk well. "Shall go, accompany uncle for a drink." My father's face had a long-absent joyful smile. My mother in the kitchen, holding my hand, quietly said, "Claire, this time, you've found the right person. This child, steady, reliable, his gaze at you is all love." Mom is relieved. My eyes warmed. Yes. This time, I've found the right person. Life on track, love and career both bountiful. News about Eric and Ivy, I heard from others. My university roommate was a well-informed gossip queen. One day, she excitedly called me. "Claire. Great news. Eric was fired by the company." I was somewhat surprised. What happened? What else? Two timing, capsized. Roommate said, Eric entered the new company via Ivy's father's connections, originally triumphant. But he didn't change, coaxing Ivy while hooking up with a new female intern at the company. Result, caught red-handed by Ivy. Ivy was ruthless, made a scene at the company on the spot. Her dad in anger directly greeted the company executives. Eric not only fired, but due to misconduct, on the industry blacklist. New York circles are that small. In the future, he wants to mix in this industry, difficult. What about Ivy? I asked. What else? Cried 2 days, went abroad to heal. She's a young miss, plenty of retreats. Roommate on the phone, indignant. The most disgusting is Eric, this Phoenix man, ate the extinct household meal, still wants to smash the pot. Now good, bamboo basket fetching water empty, deserves it. I listened, no big waves in heart. This seemed an expected outcome. A person's character determines his ceiling. Eric's bones were engraved with selfishness, greed, and opportunism. Even without Ivy, he would eventually fall hard for other things. I was just glad. Glad I withdrew timely, not dragged into the quagmire by him. In autumn, Ethan proposed to me. In a restaurant overlooking mountains of red leaves. No extravagant display, only a ring he personally designed, and a heartfelt true confession. He said, "Claire, before meeting you, my life plan had only work and goals. After meeting you, my life plan has only you. I don't want to be just your boyfriend, I want to be your husband, your family, your lifelong support. Marry me, okay?" I cried messily, nodding nonstop. Our wedding was set for the next year's spring. Both parents met, everything unbelievably smooth. Ethan's parents were university professors, knowledgeable, reasonable, mild and open-minded. They were extremely satisfied with me as daughter-in-law. The two families sat together, discussing our future. My parents said, "We want nothing, as long as you two are well." Ethan's parents said, "House and car we've prepared, wedding money we'll cover, can't wrong Claire." Ethan held my hand, smiling, "My money, hereafter all managed by Claire." At that moment, I truly understood. A good marriage is the union of two families, alignment of three views, mutual respect and fulfillment. Not like Eric said. A native New York only child marrying down to their out-of-town ordinary family, required to pack away all princess syndrome, to endure, to devote. That's not love, that's bloodsucking. On the eve of the wedding, I went to the bridal shop to pick up the custom wedding dress. When coming out, at the door encountered a familiar yet strange figure. It was Eric. He had thinned, also much haggard. Wearing an ill-fitting suit, greasy hair, eyes full of fatigue and decadence. Seeing me, his eyes instantly burst with light. He quickly walked over, blocking my path. "Claire." His voice hoarse. I frowned, stepped back, pulling distance. "Something?" "Claire, I know all." He was incoherent. "It's my fault, I was obsessed, I wronged you." He began playing the emotion card. "We were together 3 years, have you forgotten all? Do you remember our first time to Ho-Hi? Do you remember the song I sang for your birthday? Claire, give me another chance, okay? Now I have nothing, I only have you." He cried emotionally, acting sincere. If it were me a year ago, perhaps I would soften. But now, I only found it laughable. I looked at him, calmly speaking. "Eric, what you miss isn't me. What you miss is that springboard letting you easily stand in New York, that me who unconditionally tolerated and accommodated you. But that person is already dead. The moment you brought Ivy stepping into my home door, she died." I took out my phone from the bag, opened the lock screen. On the screen was my wedding photo with Ethan. In the photo, I smiled brilliantly, between brows and eyes was happiness and relaxation I myself hadn't noticed. "I'm getting married next month. I love him, he loves me too. I'm living well now, so please don't disturb me anymore." I bypassed him, preparing to leave. Yet he like crazy, grabbed my wrist from behind. "I don't believe. You're just to revenge me. You don't love him at all. Claire, come back to me, I swear I'll be good to you hereafter." His strength was great, pinching me painfully. At this moment, a black phaeton steadily stopped by the roadside. The car door opened, Ethan got out. Seeing this scene, his face instantly sank. He quickly walked over, grabbed Eric's wrist, twisted hard. Eric, in pain, immediately released me. Ethan pulled me behind, his tall figure completely protecting me. He looked at Eric, eyes cold as ice. "I've warned you. Stay away from her." Eric looked at Ethan, eyes full of jealousy and unwillingness. He knew he lost. Lost utterly. Ethan ignored him, pulled me into the car. The car sped away. From the rearview mirror, I saw Eric still stunned in place, like a dog abandoned by its owner. Later, I heard from roommate, Eric returned to his hometown. In a small company, doing ordinary work. Heard he tells everyone, he once had a great girlfriend in New York, prominent family, devoted to him. Just a bit princess syndrome. Blames himself for not enduring a bit, thus missing out. He attributes his failure to a missed love tragedy. He will never admit it's his own character not matching his desired ambition. 1 year later. My company and Ethan's company collaborated on a new project, great success. My happiness, I decide. My future, I control. And by my side stands an emperor who appreciates me and is willing to stand shoulder to shoulder. We will jointly govern our brand new life.